And I'll just start this. So welcome everyone to our e-learning community of practice. I can see a few writing where they're from, and it's fantastic to see we've got people from Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales. I haven't seen anyone from South Australia yet, but there could be amongst there. If you are, please write in there. And also people from West Australia would be good. Now, there's a bit of noise happening in the background, so could I get everyone to mute their, oh actually I could probably do it, mute your microphones until you would like to talk. Now I'm happy for people to join in anytime if you've got a question. Maybe start using the chat and then we can direct the question to you. That, you know, that would be good. Today we're going to be talking about how to create effective and compliant assessments and what tools to use in Moodle. Now, I think this is really high on topic at the moment. Most people have to do their TAE upgrade, and part of that is looking at how we can create effective assessments and compliant assessments, because we really don't want to fall down in any audits, do we? I've got Andrea from Southwest TAFE, and you've just heard briefly from Andrea. She's based down in Warrnambool, and she's working on the project with me for the Victorian TAFE Alliance project, where we're creating content to share between the regional TAFEs in Victoria, and part of that is actually creating compliant assessments. Now, Andrea's got lots of skills in this area, and I'd like her to share how she does it, so that, you know, it'll give you a bit of a benchmark of the way that we're doing it, but also I'd like you to share how you're doing it also. So we'll have a bit of a conversation happening. So I'll stop sharing my screen if you like. Andrea, would you like to start sharing? I've got my view as a Brady Bunch at the moment. It looks quite good.
Yeah. Sorry, my screen disappeared for the moment.
That's okay.
Okay, so hopefully you can see on, and I've got two screens, so I'll be looking sideways a little bit.
Yeah, that's okay.
You can see on my screen just the documents that I've downloaded from training.gov, and this is for a certificate in horticulture unit that we've been working on for soils. How I start, whenever I want to work out how to do the assessments for a unit, it's benchmarking. Okay, what are the standards that I'm going to assess to? And obviously the training.gov unit is one of the first things that I go and look at. Okay, what are the benchmarks that have been set in here? But also the other benchmarks that I will be looking at would be what does the industry think competent looks like? What is this when this person goes out into the industry? What are they looking for that this student can do? So there are the two things that I've got in my head when I start looking at assessments. So going to the training.gov document, I then, I think it was a couple of years ago, I was in a workshop by Annie Uringa, and let me know through chat if you've done the Annie Uringa workshop through the Vet Development Centre. Brilliant. It was a brilliant presentation. It was a big aha moment for me. This is a really good way to think about it and look at assessments. And I've done several of her workshops again because I really like Annie Uringa. So it's the make me, show me, tell me. So what's a student got to do? They've got to either make me something, so that could be a project or assignment or a product. They've got to show me something through their practical demonstration. They've got to tell me something. So they've got to demonstrate their knowledge in some way. And that's how I work out what assessment methods that we're going to use. And it actually says in the language of the training.gov document. So here you'll see I've downloaded the soils performance criteria. It's only got 2 criteria, and it's talking about discuss. So they've got to do, so as soon as this, I can see this discuss, and generally what I'll do is I'll come up and highlight. So I use different colours for different things. So if there's an observation, I'll use yellow. So it's discussed with supervisor. So someone, I might even highlight the whole one, and seeking clarification when necessary. So they're going to discuss task requirements here. So it's an action, it's something they've got to do. So someone's got to tell me that that's done. So obviously I could actually see them discussing it with the supervisor, or it could be that the supervisor tells me, yes, that was discussed in that way. So that's an observational thing there. Prepare tools and materials for collecting samples. So to me, there are two things in this. So the prepare tools, so that's an observation, so they're able to do that. But also there's a bit of knowledge in here. So they've got to know, in fact, I'll do that. So they've got to actually do the action of preparing the tools, but they've actually got to know what tools they're preparing. They've got to put the right things out. So there are two things there that I would see in that need to be going to different assessments, or it's part of demonstrating knowledge. And this knowledge doesn't mean that I'm going to give them a question of what tools would you put out in a knowledge question. It could be that in their presentation there may be a question as I'm watching them prepare the tools. And also it's highlighting that in blue also tells me that I know in my delivery that needs to be covered. So that knowledge also needs to be covered in the delivery. Make sure that I'm preparing them properly for assessment. So 1.3, take and prepare samples as instructed. So once again, this is a demonstration. So they can follow instructions. Assist with, and also there's knowledge in there as well. They know how to prepare the samples. So they can follow instructions, but they know how to prepare samples. So I go through and I actually just highlight. I could do it, print it out, got my highlighters, but you can do it like this. And I go through and highlight everything in the document. I also come into performance evidence here. So mostly so far it's just been observation and knowledge. And in fact, the performance criteria is just observation and knowledge for this unit. However, when you get to performance evidence, they've actually got to prepare records. So therefore something that is a make me thing. They've got to actually hand in some records that they've prepared while they've been doing the soils. So, so far in this unit, I would say there's two methods. There's demonstration and there's a project, so a make me. If I go down further, you probably want to put in some questions or demonstration of knowledge beforehand here, principles and practices. So for this assessment task, you'd have three methods. And Christine's actually developed this unit in Moodle. Am I right, Christine, and you've done 3 assessment tasks? You're on mute.
Unmute. Yes, that's correct. I've done it in using 2 quizzes and a project observation, virtually a project which combines the observation, plus a third-party report from the supervisor.
Yeah.
And I'll show you that once you finish doing your bit. Do you want to go any further with that, Andrea, or are you happy with it?
Probably not. Just in saying that what you just said reminded me in that the methods you use will also depend on the cohort. And how you combine those methods, because they don't necessarily always stand separate from each other. Now, this cohort, the Cert 2 in horticulture that we developed it for, was a traineeship model. So we're not always going to be with them when they're doing the tasks. So Christine will explain how, with those methods, how we how that was taken into account. I guess I'll hand it over to you now, please.
Okay, thank you. I'll stop. If you could stop sharing, and then I'll start sharing my screen again. Thank you.
I guess while you're doing that, are there any questions? Are there any questions from that? Because that was very quick.
Okay, I'll just see if anything's come up in the chat. Let me have a look. There's the chat. But just unmute yourself if you've got a question for Andrea.
Yeah.
Does everyone use that same sort of method?
Annie Uringa's method's been around for a little while now. It's good.
I'm just trying to find the chat. It's sort of disappeared on me at the moment. And I'll find it. Ah, there it is.
What I like about it is the language. It puts it in sort of like a student perspective. What have I got to make? What have I got to show? What have I got to tell? You know, or the knowledge I've got to demonstrate. And with the knowledge, and what I find when I look at a lot of when people create things, everyone wants to make someone have a question and write an answer to it. But a lot of times you can demonstrate your knowledge while you're doing the task. And while the student's doing the task, you can then ask them questions to check their understanding or have contingency questions. So, okay, this works in this situation, but what happens if this happens? And so therefore they're being able to demonstrate their knowledge on the job like they should.
And it sort of doesn't make the... Sorry.
A lot better than quiz questions.
Yeah. And it sort of makes it flow a little bit better too, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay. Show, tell, make. Very straightforward. Very true, Glenn. And when Andrea actually showed that to our group, I mean, we all did it in our own different ways, but just to use that highlighter, I think that's a really good technique, and it really makes it stand out and you don't miss anything, and I think that's one of the beauties of it. I'm going to bring up the Moodle shell that is for that particular unit, which is this one here, assist with soil growing media sampling and testing, and this particular unit has got all the content in here obviously, but we've got a topic called assessments, and this is where the assessments are. Now this particular one, because we're looking at trainees, we've broken it into quizzes, so quiz questions, testing their knowledge, and then we did it as a task, a project practical demonstration with a supplementary evidence, which would be coming from the employer. And because it is a trainee, and you know, we could get them to demonstrate it, but part of this requirement in this particular unit, they had to demonstrate it more than once at different times. So we really want to make sure that we are showing that the student or the learner is competent in what they're doing. So that's how we've done it. So you know, we just used a simple quiz in Moodle, and we had the statement, you know, that's our own work at the front, and then we just use different combinations of questions to make it really quite easy for them to do. And it's self-marking, which is a great thing for our teachers, obviously. So we've got, in that particular one, there was 18 questions, which covered off all the different knowledge components. And then we had another quiz, which was broken down into part B of the assessment. We had part 1A and 1B. And normally what we do with our quizzes is if we've got a combination of writing quizzes and self-marking quizzes, we try to keep them in separate so that the students can get instant feedback for the one that are self-marking, and it's great for the teacher, and then the ones that have to be marked, the teacher knows that they've got to go in and give the student a mark. So we try to do it that way if we can. So these, I think both of these may be self-marking. They've just been broken up into two different ones. But just give you an idea, just using a different combination of questions that are in Moodle. So the drag and drop, as you can see here, most of those drag and drop, multiple choice, are the ones that were used. So that was all this quiz was quite short, only 5 questions. It made me think about, oh, do I want to split the 2 quizzes, because one's got 18, one's got 5, and that may be something I'll think about, depending on whether it fits well together. So the practical demonstration, now this was interesting because trainees can be all located in lots of different areas, and sometimes it can be quite difficult to go to a workplace. I mean, I think as a trainee you've got 4 visits. So this one can be done via video. So they can either do it on a face-to-face when the assessor comes out, or they can do it by video. But because in this particular instance, they have to do it on 2 occasions and at least 1 week apart. So that can be quite difficult for an assessor if they've got to travel, you know, 4 hours or 3 hours or even an hour to a trainee, and they might be the only one in that location, and it can be quite expensive. So in this particular one, we've given the option to have video. Does anyone else use video as an observation? Submission of videos. It's a really good question. Very, very good question. What we've been doing is using OneDrive and getting the students to share their OneDrive, and then we can download. Yes, we use video often. And Miranda, how are you handling that? Yes, we do lots with USB. Yeah, that can work too. Because it is the biggest problem, isn't it? You can also put them into YouTube, but the problem with putting them into YouTube is that the student can delete it, and then you haven't got your evidence to show if you get audited. So that's a bit of an issue. OneDrive is the solution that we're looking at our tape, where they can share it with us and we can download and then store it in a server file. Anyone else got any ideas of how they've been, or any information about how they've been doing it? No? Okay, that's good. That's really good feedback. So here we got, this is how it's going to be done. Create 2 3-minute videos collecting and describing the tools and materials required for collecting soil samples, performing simple soil tests, including and all the different type of tests. You will video yourself with someone, or have someone video it for you, because that could be a bit of an issue. And you also need to be aware of the injury if someone's not looking where they're going. You will be deemed to have safely completed the assessment task when you have correctly responded to all the criteria, and then there's a marking guide. So the marking guide would give them the information about what they have to do for the assessment. So all the criteria, so they know really clearly what they've got to do, and a record of, so yeah, so they've got to do it. And this is the record of participation, practical demonstration on 3 occasions, and feedback to learner. Now, this particular form, because we want to really make sure the learner is competent, we have the third-party report. So, and that's that. I'm just going to the next bit. Supplementary evidence, Appendix B, which is the one you were the third-party report. So that's just a normal form we have, and it's just the same as what we've seen before, that they've checked the map, they've collected the tools and so forth, and they've done it 3 times, and the dates, and it's signed off by the employer or observer, and then the assessor will sign off. Because your employer cannot mark them as competent, the assessor, they have to be an assessor to be able to mark them competent, but they can, you know, give you that third-party report. Has anyone else got any questions in relation to that? I can't see anything coming up in the chat. I'll just bring that chat up again. Okay, just bear with me. Here we go. the video includes a third-party report completed by assessor. Do we need to keep the video? Yes, we would want to keep the video. We've had instances where we've been asked. I think providing the marking guide is really important, definitely very, very important, because you've got to tell them, you know, what standard that they've got to do it, and you know, what you're expecting. So do you video those that you observe? No. I understand where you're coming from, Helen. Yeah, I understand. But the fact that you're not there, you need to have some evidence that you could mark them as being competent. So that's why the video is so important if you are doing it from afar. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and that question has been raised before, but when we've been audited and it's been done by video, we've had to supply the video. Has anyone else got any examples they'd like to share with us about how they do their assessments and what sort of tools they use in Moodle or any other online platform? Everyone's gone silent. I'll just go back to the Moodle. And one thing that we do, once we've had decided what assessments we would do, in our Moodle, we actually create a final assessment mark. So this one here, unit final assessment result, because each of these would be marked either satisfactory, not satisfactory. But to say whether they're competent or not, we actually have a final assessment. And in there, it would say whether they're competent or not competent. Okay, so that's how that one works. Has anyone got an example of what they've been doing or something they've done recently in far as developing an assessment? No, just get all the assessments up.
Christine, there's a question in the chat.
In the chat? I just couldn't see that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh. Hi, Christine. It's Kathleen here. I'm just going to jump in anyway.
Yeah, good on you. That's what I like.
My question was, can I speak? So I've just decided to do it.
Just do it. Just do it, because it's the chat keeps on flicking. Every time I move a different location on the screen, it goes and hides on me. I'm sorry.
No worries. I want to talk a little bit about validation of the assessment tools and or industry engagement in the development tools. Maybe more industry engagement once the first draft is developed. Yeah. So I'm curious, with the development of the assessment tools, going right back to the highlighted things that Andrea showed us with the unit of competency, all the way through to then we've put this together and we've uploaded it to Moodle. I guess my question is, one, before you upload it to Moodle, do you do a Word document-based version, or do you just do a drafty sort of thing, put it straight on the Moodle, and then do you give access to your validators and or your industry engagement people via the Moodle or via the draft Word document version, or how do you manage all that stuff?
Very good. Really, really good question. With the Victorian Tape Association project, what we've been doing is when we've developed, say, for instance, a particular unit, I would then talk to a subject matter expert and then get them to review what's being done, not only the content, but the assessments, and to make sure that it is at the right level and is what they're looking for. And so it's like our pre-validation, and they'll give us some feedback. Our subject matter experts are usually working in the industry, even though they may be teaching at a TAFE where we are, so that we get that currency. So that's really important. Once we've done the pre-validation, there may be some adjustments that need to be done, and we do those, and then we make it available to be previewed again by other subject matter experts. Yeah, so that's how we're dealing with it. Has anyone else got any other ways that they do it?
So, Kathleen, sorry, Christine, if I may, we've got a preview area in Moodle. So they actually look at the Moodle shell, which is the content and the assessments, but we've also got all our documents, which Christine's showing up on the screen at the moment, in Moodle as well. So they can download all the hard copy or the Word documents for the unit that needed, not only for assessment, but for delivery, content mapping, activities mapping, all those sorts of things as well. We map all our content and activities, not just assessment. So that's all sitting there in the shell for them to look at. So when the subject matter expert or the teacher that does the pre-validation, they get to see both things.
Thank you, Andrea. That's really helpful and of value to see how it's sitting in the Moodle shell. And I'm assuming that, say I was working with you and I was going to do a blah blah unit, I'm assuming someone would set me up the shell with the templates and say, now, Kath, we've got you to go and do this unit. Here's your shell. Use these template documents to develop your blah, blah. Is that the process that works?
Yeah. With these ones, all the documentation's been done, all the answers to the questions have been done, and with the assessments at the level that they should be assessed at. So this is the assessor's version. So with all the questions, you've got the answers to the questions. And so it actually gives people a choice on whether they're going to use the paper version or the online version. But we always like to have we do the paper-based ones first before we put them into Moodle.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And Kathleen, for this project, the Regional TAFE Alliance project that we're working on, it's a harvest model, which means that we go and have a look at what's at all the 7 regional TAFEs already, and we take that and then we put it into Moodle. The subject matter expert or the teacher doesn't come in until after we've finished the assessment documents and the Moodle shell. So we do the Moodle shell, not the teachers, and we develop all that, and then we give it to the subject matter expert and say, can you validate this? So because the teachers have developed all the stuff for a start, they're already using that at their TAFEs. So we see that they're the subject matter experts and they've already had their first go at developing it. We're putting it through a quality lens, our Moodle template, and then we give it back to them and say, what do you think now? And that's how the project works.
Thanks, Andrea. I understand exactly what you're saying. It sounds very similar to what TAFE New South Wales is going through with their Skills Point project. I know it's got a fancy name, Project 83 or Project 21 or something. And so, I think it's a very similar process. That's kind of, I guess, why I was asking about that. So
that's good. And just remember, like, we're working on a project, but this is meant to be for anyone who's working in a vocational education environment. We just this committee of practice is just sharing on what we're doing. And how it could be done using that technique of highlighting and then using the tools in Moodle to display it, I suppose. But either way, I think it's always good to do your paper-based first, because that you can really see that it's all correct, and then you can put it into Moodle, which is really good. And some people want to use only the paper-based, and that's fine. But having in Moodle is a great advantage because it does save a lot of paperwork, but it also allows them to, you can keep all the documentation and all the evidence inside the Moodle, and you can keep that for the length of time that you need to for your auditing.
Sorry, just one more question. I guess all the documents you're talking about, are they in a assessor part of the Moodle that's not obviously visible to the candidates?
Yes, that's exactly right. So it's in the teacher resources and it's not viewable by the students, and all the documents are sitting in a folder and they're all there to be downloaded. You can download the folder. It has all the compliance documents that are required, you know, like your unit guide, your assessor's toolkit, you know, the different candidates' copies, the cover sheets, the feedback forms, the delivery plan, and the content assessment activities mapping. And this is really interesting because this is not something that everyone does, and this is something we've been doing as part of this project. And I think it's such a wonderful thing to do because it actually shows that you are covering off all the content that you need to cover off for that unit. So there's no gaps. And so while you do, if you do see a gap, you know, okay, I've got to put something in here. So it's a really good exercise to do. Does anyone else use content mapping? And I'm just trying to get that to come up, the chat to come up again. It's just being a bit, oh, here we go. It's a good process. Yeah, of course it could. That's exactly right. So is anyone else doing mapping to their content? It'd just be interesting to know. I mean, we used to do it in other projects where we just did it. We didn't actually put it on paper, I suppose, in a way. Yeah. But I think putting it on paper, it really makes it stand out, and you can see where you're light on with certain things. So I would highly recommend it. Yeah. So not only with your performance criteria, but also with your, you know, your knowledge and your performance evidence. Very good. Okay. How many people have actually done their upgrade to the TAE training package, the Cert 4 TAA? A few have done it. Excellent. Done. Fantastic. And we've had your diploma. That unit was already in the diploma, yeah? Working on it. You know, it is quite a big unit to do, but I think it's really valuable because it really reinforces what we're doing in that sense. Yeah, upgraded my diploma. Yeah, that's good. And some people are working on it. Very good. That's why I just thought it was a really good time to sort of talk about creating assessments and the techniques that you can use. Has anyone got anything other than what Andrea's shown us, how they develop their assessments? Anyone got anything they want to share? I think we'll probably all do something similar, but maybe not use the highlighters. Yeah? Very good.
Christine, right. I'm sorry, it's Kathy again. I'm annoying.
Yeah.
But
no, you're not. I like hearing from you.
I'd like to put out a point for conversation about what maybe Victoria TAFE is doing and other TAFEs and other RTOs about the issue about weighted assessment, percentage pass marks, having a question, part A of a question being worth 1 mark, part B is 3 marks, question 4 is worth 4 marks, and you've got to get 80% to pass, and this assessment is worth 20%, this assessment is worth 80%. What do we all think about that overall?
That's a really good question, because competency-based, it could be 100% when you're marking, if you're either competent or you're not competent. I don't believe there should be weighting on the assessments. What's everyone else really doesn't want to step in?
No, I don't believe there should be weighting either for assessments. So the system is just got to be competent first. If you want to grade after that, the grading is separate to the competence. So you've always got to deem competent first, and if you're competent, you either can do it or you can't. So it's 100%. And then grading, if you need to grade, because sometimes the unis want to see grading, that's a separate thing that happens after competence.
That's exactly right. And it's interesting, we were doing in some pockets graded assessment, and I don't think they did it that well because you know, the auditors say if you do a quiz, they've got to be 100% because they've got to do it that way. But we had some pockets that would say, oh, yeah, you only have to get, you know, 80% or 50% or something like this. And it's not compliant. I mean, it's not right. So we've wiped all grade assessment as of 2019. And so everything in our institute now will be either competent or not competent. Which, you know, I know that, I mean, grade assessment has got some merit in the fact that it gives students incentive to do really well, and it also helps when they go to apply at university, type of thing, but it also has its drawbacks too. So what's everyone else feel about that? How many people are doing graded assessment at their organisation? Can you put in the chat if you're doing graded assessment?
We actually grade on top of it.
On top of it, yeah. That's what we were doing here. Yeah. Was told 100%, and if it was okay to get 80 because some performance criteria were duplicated, was told that they were assessed. Oh, I've got a very noisy background happening there. I don't know if that was.
So generally, if you're mapping in your, so every time you have got something in your assessment, or it should map to a performance criteria, performance evidence, or performance knowledge. If they only need to get 80%, why are you asking them that question? So you're over-assessing. Just assess them enough to get that maps everything. Otherwise, if you're over-assessing.
Mm. Yeah. No waiting from us with any assessments or graded assessment or competency-based. Thanks, Christina. Always done non-graded assessments since 2000. Very good, Helen. And Miranda, could you say that again, please? Oh, I was just asking whether you are using graded or weighting at your place of work. Yeah. Whether it be a TAFE or private RTO.
And I guess my point in raising that topic is twofold. One, I agree 100% with everything you said, 110% if that's possible. The second thing is that I'm curious with my colleagues if they are finding some of our other fabulous colleagues who are the best trainers and assessors in the world, if there still is a bit of resistance to the concept of you either are competent or not competent. I personally am finding people who are my role models, who I respect and admire, still feel a bit like what I call a teacher mode, maybe rather than a trainer mode. And that's no disrespect to either profession, but it feels to me like there's still a little bit of resistance to the pure competency-based environment. I'm curious if other people find this as well.
I think we find it in some areas. I think health tends to be one that wants to have graded, and we find. I don't know. Health's probably the biggest one that I find that still want to use that graded, and it's educating them. And I think too, if the trainers have been have come from an academic background, they tend to want to put those grades into place. I don't know if everyone else feels that way. Glenn, resistance is futile. It is out there everywhere. Okay.
The students look for it too, though, sometimes.
Yeah.
Because they've come from a secondary system or, secondary's grade, uni's grade, and then they come to TAFE and like, hang on, what do you mean we don't grade? You just can do it or you can't do it. I don't understand. So, and they will see in class that there are different levels of how well someone does something. So it's about having that conversation to them too. This is about workplaces, and workplaces you don't get graded.
Yeah.
So it's about building a conversation with the student if you come up against that resistance with the student. it's a bit more difficult when it's with your colleagues and staff.
I used,
Yeah, sorry, Christine, you do.
I was just going to say, when I was teaching IT and a diploma of IT, and a lot of organisations would ring me and say, can you recommend someone? And I would actually, you had that conversation with the students and say, you know, this is competency based, but if someone's going to ring me and say, can I recommend someone, I'm going to recommend someone who's really putting in. So that sort of help with, you know, doing their best, if that makes sense. Yeah, because some learners can be a little bit lazy and just do what you need to do to be competent. So you need to give them some incentive for, you know, doing their best. And that's how I dealt with it as a teacher, was saying that if someone contacts me for a referral to someone, if one of my students, I'll be choosing the one that's putting in. Yeah. But a good question, Kathleen. Thank you. Anyone want to add anything else there? Oh, okay. So Miranda's put in here, competency to a level of Certificate 4 or diploma. I'm not sure what you mean there, but I could probably say what we used to do. At GoTape, we used to say anything above Cert 4 was graded, and then we wiped it all together, and then only those courses that were applied for graded assessment were allowed to have graded assessment, but now, as from 2019, all ours will be competency-based. I'm not sure what you're saying there, Miranda, whether you're saying that yours are above Cert 4 or diploma. Do you want to take the mic? No? Silence. She might not be able to talk. That's okay. Okay, here we go. Miranda, competency, is competency based on the level of the course? Yes, well, it is. I mean, it's obviously at the performance criteria and the knowledge and performance evidence. So it'll be at the level that's meant to be at.
Yeah. So all courses in the vet sector are competency first and graded second. So you all have to be, even if it's diploma or advanced diploma, you have to be competent first. And then after you've been deemed competent, then you can grade.
That's correct.
Yeah, no matter what level. So here we do it at diploma and advanced diploma, but it's only once they've been deemed competent. No point even going through the whole issue of grading if they're not competent.
Mm. And it's interesting. It's like having a layer over top of the course and saying how well they did it. And I know when we first did competency or graded assessment, it was based on all those employability type skills, you know, communication and, you know, teamwork and things like that. But that sort of changed with only a few courses going to grade assessment, and then they started grading it on the performance criteria. So the skill is competent, though it's delivered, that is first assesses, that I find assesses grade. Yeah, that's right. Julie, not all courses need grading, yeah. Which is open for interpretation, yeah. I'm just reading some of these and you can see them on the screen. I find it helps to use a rubric which starts at competent and then on the scale up to the highly competent, yeah. And with the grade assessment, we're using the rubric for that also, because that really gives you, and the teachers, the assessor, so it's consistent that they can see what the different levels are when they're grading. Yeah, very true. And in Moodle, there's a great rubric that you can use. You can use the advanced, how many people use the advanced grading and the rubric in Moodle? Yeah, after, yes, right. Okay, these very units. I'm not sure, not familiar with this. Great help. Doing great with that. Must go. Okay, thanks, Julie. With the graded, the rubric and the advanced grading, they're really good ones to use. I'll see whether I can find an example to show you how they work, unless someone's got one that they want to share quickly with me. I'll have to go into a different Moodle site. So Andrew has to go. Okay, it's getting on. So a few people have got to go because they've got to go to classes. So if anyone's interested in the advanced grading and the rubric that's used in Moodle, I think it's great because the advanced grading takes the place of your feedback form. So you don't have to fill out individual feedback forms. You can actually do it inside your Moodle, which is really good. Not everyone's using that technique. How many people are using it? Advanced grading. Yes, Glenn. Glenn's using it, so that's good. I'm just looking, I'm just trying to get into our GoTo Moodle so I can show you an example. Has anyone heard of it before? Obviously, Glenn has, but anyone else? Has anyone else heard of the advanced grading? I'll see if I can get one up to show you. Just bear with me for 2 seconds. And I'll bring something up. We'll see if there's one in the template. All right, I'll just bring this across. Hopefully this is one that is being done. I'm sort of coming on, I didn't think of showing this to you today, but while we've got a few minutes before we finish, I thought it would be good. Now, so this is up here. This is online marking guide. I'm just going to the student would actually see it. I'm just going to go in as edit the settings so you can actually see what it is. Just make sure it's there. Oh, it's very slow. All right, let me just go here. Yeah, so with the advanced grading, we've got a template, and you just put your criteria in. You say what you expect from the students, and then what the marker needs. So it's like your feedback form, but you've got it actually electronically. And then when the student goes in, they actually see what the criteria is before they do the assessment. And then the teacher, when they go to mark, they have the criteria and they can mark it next to each of the criteria. So it's a really good way of doing it. With the rubric, I'll just go back here. The rubric you can actually put in, that's the rubric one. Yeah. So the rubric, you can put your each of the assessments, not covered, how well it is being done. Which, yeah, and I think someone mentioned that they would mark them as competent. So if they weren't competent at all in any of these here, then it would be marked as not satisfactory or not competent, depending if it's a final or not. Okay, So has anyone else got anything they would like to talk about, as far as what's available in Moodle for assessments? These are just samples of ones that we use. We use the online marking guide, or paper-based, so they just upload the feedback form, the rubric for graded assessment, and the quiz. And we also have for the forum, and that is a forum for the marking guide, and then the final results, depending on whether it's a online marking or paper-based. And when I say paper-based, it just means we have to provide a feedback form for our learners when they're being assessed. So you can either upload the feedback form in Moodle, or you can do it as an online marking using the advanced grading. Yes. Okay, so that's going to be it for today. Has anyone got any suggestions about what they would like to see in the next community of practice? I'll see if I can get that chat coming up again. It's disappeared on me. I can't seem to find it. So if any, oh, there it is. There we go. I haven't seen the latest version. Thank you. Okay. So has anyone got a suggestion of something that you would like to go over or talk about in the community of practice, or present? You've got something that you would like to present? Validation. That's a good one. Does anyone else want to look at something like that? Oh, thanks, Miranda. How to set up a rubric in a learning management system. That's a good one, Glenn. Yep, so there's a couple of suggestions. RPL, that old, yeah, RPL, recognition of prior learning, that's a good one. And actually, the recognition of prior learning is a great one, really, and there's some really good tools that you can use to capture that information. Yeah, I'll laugh there, okay. A lot of people hate recognition of prior learning, but I think if you have it set out right, it won't be as bad as what we think. How to set up the criteria for a third-party report. That's a good one. Okay, they're really good suggestions. So I think so keep them coming. I'll look at them all and see whether we can combine a couple together that are similar topics. And what we can't do next time, we'll do the following. Help assessors to be confident in their assessment judgment. And that's really good. I think if you've got really good in your assessment and you've got the answers or what you're looking for, that gives the assessor confidence that they are meeting what they need to meet. It's really good one. And so that's really the way the assessment's being written. Okay, beautiful. All right, so we might close it for now. Thank you, everyone, for participating. It's really good. Most people use the chat today, but it's great if you can come in with the microphone if you've got one. It's always good to hear your voices. So thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon. It's October now, so we'll try to have another one at the end of November before we close. I imagine a lot of people will be finishing up in December for a few weeks. So if we have one sort of late November, early December, that might be good. So bye, everyone. Thanks for joining, and we'll talk soon. Okay, bye.